You ever go to see a magician? Card tricks. What they're really trying to do is show you something over here, get your attention while they're doing stuff with the left hand or vice versa. And, there's no such thing as magic, I'm pretty sure. Although I did see a Swedish magician that did something amazing with a chair and duct tape. Anyway, Golden State really came to terms very early with what Steph Curry was. And I think this is a big secret to their success. They knew he was a brilliant mind and a brilliant shooter and a brilliant ball handler. He was going to be the soul of the team. But he wasn't very good defensively. And he's small. And he's been hurt. But instead of trying to elevate him and ask for more, Golden State said, we're just going to surround him, draft and develop defensive players. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They went and got Andre Iguodala. Now they have Kevon Looney. They acquire Andrew Wiggins. In all the moves they make, even KD's always been a willing defender. In all the moves they make, they don't bring a poor defender to the room. Now they have Gary Payton II, who can defend multiple guard positions. What they've come to terms with is, listen, we have this brilliant guy, and instead of squeezing more out of him, we're going to get the brilliance of his offense and his brain and his ball handling and hide his flaw. Do you realize since Steve Kerr entered the Warriors, the Splash Brothers, and Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson, they have held opponents to the lowest field goal percentage in the league. And that's with a liability with Steph Curry. A liability. They're number one in the league and number two defending the three because they came to terms very early with what Steph was. Brilliant A++ in multiple things. Not a good defender. And that's what's interesting about Dallas. Everybody's figuring out, what are we going to do with Dallas and what are we going to put with Luka? He'll never be a great defensive player. I don't think he has the body for it. I don't think he has the interest in it. And he is so ball-centric with his ball usage. You see this with Westbrook and Harden. He just doesn't have a lot of gas at the end of a series to play both ends. He doesn't. He is so good offensively. He puts all his energy into offense. So as we sit here and look at Dallas and go, let's pair him with this score and that score, I would re-sign Jalen Brunson, but he's 6'1" and small, so he's not a great defender, and Luka's not a great defender. I think there's an argument to be made for Dallas going forward. They should steal a page from the Warriors. Acknowledge what their star is, but also what he isn't. He'll never be a great defensive player. Start to draft and develop defensive players. Don't get the most offensively gifted player. You don't even know if he can play well with Luka because great offensive players like KD couldn't play with Westbrook. Great offensive players couldn't play with Harden. I think Dallas and Luka will struggle if you pair him with another elite scorer. But when Klay Thompson came out of Washington State, the thing with Klay was big, strong body that could defend and hit a three. But the key with him, he's a catch-and-shoot guy. He could defend. He could hide Steph's flaws. I don't know exactly what Dallas is going to do, but sometimes you have to admit, here's what our star does, and here's what our star does not do. Kareem, both ends. Michael, both ends. Kobe in his prime, both ends. LeBron, absolutely both ends. Durant really does give you an effort defensively. Steph, size, willingness, ability, strength, it ain't his game. And I don't think Luka is either. So everybody's caught up in what are we going to pair? What's the answer? In this entire Warrior dynasty, because of the Splash Brothers and the ease in which they score and their engineering of the three-point shot, the analytic first team, we haven't really paid attention to the truth. They've always been a great defensive team, and Steve Kerr, though he was known as a shooter, has become a remarkably deft defensive coach. Not just good defenders, Draymond, and Klay, and Wiggins, and Payton, and Looney, and they don't ever bring anybody over, not somebody they really need who's a lousy defender. Because then they'd have two on the floor. And as much as we fall in love with the three, Boston, I think, is the best team in the East. They're better on defense than offense. And the Warriors are probably going to sweep the Mavs. And it's not just hitting jumpers. It's that they've completely discombobulated Luka and the Mavericks offense. All right, good stuff today. By the way, Rick Bucher had me speak, got a town car, and I was in the car for an hour and a half driving home with an odd bird. He acknowledged during the drive he didn't really like people, different personality. But for the next hour and a half I spent in the car with this guy, he was brilliant. He was really one of the smartest people I've ever listened to in my life. But he was different and quirky and a little dysfunctional. And what he did for a living was mostly be alone or drive people around in utter silence. I just tend to be talkative and ask a lot of questions. And we tend to think, the richest people are the smartest people. And that's just not the case. There's smart people everywhere, but they don't want to play the corporate game. Maybe they just don't align with certain personalities. There are brilliant people all over this world, and they just don't care about money. I could sit and read all day and be the happiest people in the world. And in sports, we tend to think about something that's kind of analogous, that like the most talented team always wins. It's like, no, that's not the case. The talented teams have dysfunction and ego, and they're often at big blue blood programs that have pressurized environments where players shrink. The Toronto Raptors won the title in 2019. They were lucky to get into the finals because they got a crazy bounce by Kawhi Leonard. Remember that legendary picture? Or they don't even get to the finals, and then they get to the finals and the Warriors fall apart. They were not the best team. The New England Patriots lost to the Giants. They'd beaten them a month earlier in New York. And David Tyree made a catch, the only one of his career that mattered, that stuck to his helmet like there was super glue. It was a lot of luck. It's okay. You still get the title, but luck is involved, timing is involved, health is involved, and Boston is better than Miami. Miami may win the series. Boston's better than Miami. They have more elite players, more flexibility on defense, but this is a boom or bust sport now with all the three-point shots. And if you're hitting them, boom. If you're missing them, bust. And you can have quarters like Miami had. I mean, we've seen some quarters by these good teams that are just horrible. But the difference is both these teams, Miami and Boston, can be boom or bust because they shoot a lot of threes. The difference is one has really high-end, multiple elite defenders. Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. This is the best defensive construct in the NBA, Boston. This is a really good defensive team. Not just pretty good, really good. But now Marcus Smart is hurt, and Robert Williams has been hurt, and everybody's nicked up. Miami is a testament to culture and coaching, and Pat Riley, and Eric Spoelstra, and Jimmy Butler's passion. But their boom isn't as high, and their bust is lower. And that's just what they are. And they may win this series because now we're tied at 2, and they get to go home. But don't kid yourself. Belichick and Greg Popovich are cautionary tales of how much brilliant culture, there's a ceiling to it. And I just think Miami's ceiling, we saw it. There's an argument to be made. It was in the bubble 2 years ago, right? When it was a younger team, not as banged up, and now P.J. Tucker's older, and Jimmy Butler's got knee inflammation, and Kyle Lowry is older. They are like the Warriors without the talent. They're really close to just falling apart physically. They can be really interesting when they're healthy and really bad when they're not. But, the best team does not win every series. Boston's the better team. Everybody I trust, everybody who knows basketball that I use as a source, everybody's saying the same thing. Like, Boston's got more good players. But Boston, because this is the league, boom or bust, take a three, nothing else, they have horrible quarters. But in the 16 quarters in this series, Boston's won or tied 13 of them. But they've also arguably had 2 of the 3 worst quarters that just took them out of the game. So, I look at the teams that are remaining, and I think Miami has very little margin for error. But if they don't have another horrific quarter, who knows? Boston, to me, if they're healthy, they win it. And if they just play with intensity, inexplicably, they're not talented enough to have mail-in quarters. And in a couple of quarters, Boston just hasn't shown up. They haven't played hard. They're not that talented. Golden State doesn't always have to play hard to win. Boston has to play hard to win. And Jason Tatum talked about the secret sauce last night in the W.
I think I do a really good job of, after I sleep it off, regardless if I have 10 points or 46 points, the next day is the next day, and whatever happened. I didn't doubt myself. I know how to play basketball, and obviously we knew that how important this game was. And everybody just had to come out with a different sense of urgency.
I want to talk about the Warriors tonight. They can beat Dallas and sweep them in the series.